just in time for the Rio Olympics after the birth of his twins. Now the 5AA forecast, partly cloudy and 15 today, tomorrow partly cloudy and 16, an evening shower or two for Saturday and Sunday with tops of 18, then a shower or two on Monday and Tuesday next week with temperatures staying in the mid-teens. More news as it happens on 5AA.
If you or anyone you know is impacted by problem gambling, seek help at problemgambling.sa.gov.au. This is Peter Godfrey.
And a very good morning, 8 minutes past 5. Temperature still on 11 degrees at the moment. Let's take a look at what's happening across the ditch in New Zealand. Selwyn Manning joins us, editor of EveningReport.nz. How are you this morning, Selwyn?
Yeah, very good, Peter.
So,
not too bad at all. How are things over there?
Yeah, good. How's the weather on your side of the ditch?
Yeah, it's heading for a high, I should say, of 16 degrees today. Rain developing, according to Weather Watch, rain developing this morning, possibly heavy, then increasing to showers in the afternoon. So that's Auckland's lot. Right down in the south of the South Island, they're expecting late this afternoon snow flurries. As you know, they're predicting that really weather is starting to really show signs of true winter, put it that way. And so the ski season might get a little bit better down in that part of the country, Peter. But the overnight low was around 11 degrees, which is quite warm, isn't it? And it might be due to the northwesterly flow, so bringing in kind of sticky for this time of year.
We're matching
kind of weather conditions.
We're matching. We're on 11 at the moment, and I think we're going for about the same sort of a forecast today as you.
Well, there you go. We won't try and compete when it gets to around October or so, Peter.
No, better not.
I remember Dave and Will kind of laughing at me back in December last year when I said we're still trying to actually get over the 20 degrees Celsius, and they kind of thought that was hilarious.
We won't laugh. No, we won't laugh. Now, what's a few things making headlines news-wise over there?
Yeah, in the New Zealand Herald, they've been leading overnight and still pushing this morning on this cold case rape that occurred, and a man has been sentenced for that. And that's a 20-year-old crime that was committed there. And he was only pulled up, Peter, because he got into a scuffle with some police officers down in Christchurch. And the scuffle was serious enough for them to take a mandatory DNA test from him, a swab, and that showed a hit. And so that man is being convicted of that yesterday. So that just shows, the power of science coming back to people who think they've got away with. Apparently he thought he was away free. Yeah. So there you go. He had a history of it as well. The other thing that New Zealand Herald is reporting in a big way is the Unitary plan. We'll talk more about that. It's basically the rule book on how Auckland is going to actually cope with the growth over the next 20, 30 years. They also are starting to look at really seriously the Olympic coverage, and we'll touch a little bit on that as well later on the bulletin. If we look across at Fairfax's Stuff website, there's a huge advert for the Jason Bourne movie just popped up, but looking past that, that's Fairfax. Yeah,
same as on most of our news sites too, I've got to tell you, Selwyn.
Must be an Australasian-wide group. They're talking here about the end. There's a bit of a thinking piece here about the end of Child, Youth and Family Service being replaced within months with a Ministry for Vulnerable Children. So that's an interesting thing. That will have been coming out of the Dominion Post newspaper area, no doubt. They've often got their finger on the pulse relating to shifts in politics there. There's a love story ends, and that's about the headline is "Love-Filled Life Comes to an End." That's kind of a sad thing about a woman at the heart of a rekindled World War II romance. Touched the nation, and she's passed away, so she's quite an icon there. Russia, if you're listening, it's looking over to the United States and Donald Trump's latest controversy, where he's appealed to the Russians to help hack Hillary Clinton's emails and release 30,000 of them to the American public. That sounds kind of a bizarre thing for a potential president to be coming out with. But, yeah, so Fairfax is doing that. Radio New Zealand, it's scouting right there. Have the Olympics lost their way? It's a thinking piece going right into whether or not... it's kind of predicting that New Zealand is looking at quite a decent haul of medals at the Olympics. Yeah. The expectation is there.
You got to beat us off first, though.
Yeah, that's right, Peter. Certainly we'll be looking at the quota per population. That's how we keep our noses above the water and these kind of things. But it's looking at whether or not the Olympics have lost their way. There's also apology after a victim receives wrong files, and that's about official private files relating to medical and criminal offending being sent to the wrong people. And there's quite a big piece on council has handed Unitary plan. It's a hot potato, says Todd Niall. Todd Niall is, I'll explain a little bit about what Todd Niall is talking about. He's one of the biggest experts in what is happening in Auckland in official circles. He's well respected. So that's the roundup, Peter.
All right, so let's get on to that hot potato then, the Unitary plan that Auckland Council has released. So what's that all about?
Yeah, it's this Unitary plan. It's a blueprint on how Auckland will handle its growth over the next 2 decades. The city's urban outer boundary in this Unitary plan, this blueprint is saying that it will expand by 30%, and already the populated of the central areas of Auckland City will intensify. So what it's talking about there is there's been this argument about whether or not the city needs to sprawl out further, because remember, Auckland's built on this isthmus. On one side is the Waitemata Harbour, which is the Pacific coast side. On the other side is the Manukau Harbour, which is the Tasman seaside towards you guys, and it's very narrow through there. So Auckland as a city sprawls way, way down south and sprawls quite a significant way up north and west. So what people have been concerned about in the city is over decades is trying to contain that sprawl. The desire to become like a New Zealand version of Los Angeles is not in evidence. Now, with those strict zoning laws relating to what kind of homes that can be built and, where's the rural green belt kick in, they have been a contributor to driving up prices of houses in Auckland City because of, there's always been a reluctance also not to go up too high in the city. So the value of those homes in Auckland general have been high. So this is part of, trying to maintain the growth, the economic growth, but significantly the residential dwelling house growth in the city environment over the next 20 years. The plan is saying that its intention is to sustain this rapid growth to provide an extra 422,000 new dwellings over the next 30 years. So that's nearly 500,000 new dwellings, Peter, in the 30 years. When you think of it, the 30-year span, that's a lot of houses being built. Yeah. Now, what's come out of that is when you break that down, and this is really important here, and there are kind of parallels to Adelaide, I'd imagine, in some ways too, that what it's saying here is those out of the 422,000 new dwellings, 270,000 of them will be new dwellings within the existing Auckland City boundary, meaning the urban boundary zones. The other 152,000 will be in the areas that are currently designated as rural. Now, what that's tackling is there's been a lot of land banking in the past, particularly 10 years, people buying up, mostly foreign investment, buying up areas just outside of the Auckland urban zone that are still, they were productive land only a matter of years ago, bought them. Next thing you got gorse growing on them, woolly nightshade, all of this awful kind of weeds growing on them, and basically the owners are just sitting there thinking, okay, well, this zone is going to change probably within the next 10 years, so we're going to cash in our chips once that happens and the land soars in value. And that's what this does is basically it puts an end to that in a sense, and pushing out that boundary, that urban boundary, and says, okay, right, now's the time, cash in your chips. At the same time as the government has been looking at looking at ways of trying to actually say to land bankers and those that have invested in that area, come on, cough up, we need the land. Even to the point where the government is starting to sound interventionist, where it's saying we will take the land if it's of significant value and in the public and national interest to do so. Okay. So those are pretty strong words coming from the government. So this plan, Todd Niall has gone into it. Remember, Todd Niall, I was just mentioning before, is Radio New Zealand specialist in Auckland City issues, and what he is saying here is that the controversy sits in the so-called leafy suburbs of Auckland City, such as Westmere, Greylin, Epsom, Remuera, of course, some of the eastern lying ones that have got fantastic views over the water towards Rangitoto Island. All of those. Now, why that's controversy in those areas is because of the plan making it possible for any or taking out some of the designations that put historical kind of context into pre-1944 homes in those communities. So the plan allows basically 3 stories to be built on properties where only one single dwelling house was permitted before. So you can imagine big changes there where Auckland's going to obviously start to go up. And like if people have been to cities like Zurich and things like that, they'll see that kind of thing and containing smaller population probably, but, going up as opposed to out. The other thing is that the panel has decided, Top Noel is writing here, has decided to remove a list of Waitangi, Treaty of Waitangi principles, as well as protections for sites considered to have cultural significance to Maori. So that's hugely problematic for the councillors as they look at this unitary plan for its ratification, Peter, in the next week or so. The law requires that the councillors sit down and say, yep, okay, there's been 3 years of talk about this. They've got until August 19 to ratify what has come to them. It is almost, the political environment around it, Peter, is one where if Auckland Council tried to string this out, they would be slaughtered at their elections later on in the year around late September or October is when the postal vote starts. So they've only got a matter of a couple of weeks. The Minister of Housing, Nick Smith, he's not keen for any extensions on this. This is pretty much the deal that the government wants, and local government is really being stared down on this just by the people and also by central government to put their ink on the paper, Peter.
Okay. Interesting to watch that, and interesting listening to that. You could just taken out the words Auckland and put Adelaide in there, and a lot of these issues are current issues here, including particularly the urban infill, where similarly multiple dwellings on the one block, or going upwards, which many of our suburbs are having to do now, and building on rural areas, or what are or were rural areas. So
yes, it's kind of, I guess. There's similarities in size and economics of Adelaide and Auckland when you look in general terms. Culturally, probably, there are differences there. Like I was mentioning there, the Treaty of Waitangi, that goes way back, 1860, all of that type of thing between the Crown and Maori, and it cements in rights and privileges in some areas too, relating to how things are handled in this country. So that's an area where I would imagine that Ngāti Whātua, which is a significant tribe, or iwi as we call them here, in the Auckland area, will be looking very, very carefully at that. And it's a powerful iwi, it's a powerful tribe that has strong political influence. So we'll just see perhaps there's room for that to be addressed. But it's an interesting thing, isn't it, Peter, about what you were raising there too, is consideration. We buy our homes not far out of the city, perhaps, within driving distance. We think, well, that's going to serve us for a long time. This is a good home. I love it in this community and everything else. And then a town planner's pen can change the whole dynamic of it. And the next thing you know, you've got a 3-story apartment building right next door and taking up perhaps some of your decent views or whatever. And that's the kind of thing that is facing Auckland right now with this plan. And I guess a lot of Aucklanders are waking up to, well, this is the year where it begins the change.
Indeed. We'll watch that one with interest. So we'll just have a quick break, then we'll come back, talk a bit about New Zealand's pre-Olympics excitement. It's all getting, it's building more.
Yes, it's almost fever pitch.
We'll find out more in a moment. Be right back with you, Selwyn. Selwyn Manning with us from New Zealand. He's the editor of EveningReport.nz.
Hello. Frank Walker from National Tiles. Buy National Tiles online 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at nationaltiles.com.au. Yes, from a sample tile to a full house lot, buy National Tiles online 24/7 at nationaltiles.com.au. All National Tiles exclusive weekly specials and famous promotions are yours 24/7 online at nationaltiles.com.au.
At Duncan Bashir Hannon, you know that we offer a great depth of expertise in providing legal services to South Australians. But what you might not know
is that Duncan Bashir Hannon also offers family law services. Our DBH family law team will deliver the best outcome for you. Free call 1-800-DBH-DBH. That's 1-800-324-324. Or visit dbh.com.au.
Duncan Bashir Hannon. Don't settle for less.
We got our council rates yesterday.
You know, they do a lot of great stuff in our community.
Yeah, roads and rubbish, I know.
No, more than that. You take Angus to the dog park every night, don't you?
Yeah.
And Ollie loves the playground. What would your mum do without Home Assist?
Oh.
And they keep taking the graffiti down across from your house.
Councils do all those things.
For less than 4% of total taxes Australians pay, councils provide more than you realise. Call yours to find out more. SA Councils. The closer you are, the more we care.
Always dreamed of cruising the Mediterranean? Come along to a free Phil Hoffman Travel and Holland America Line information event on July 26th, 28th or 30th at multiple locations across Adelaide. Discover amazing European cities, including Venice, Dubrovnik, Santorini, Rome, Barcelona and more. Plus, right now, Phil Hoffman Travel has 2017 early bird deals like the 24-night Magic of the Mediterranean cruise from $6,990, including flights from Adelaide. Register for an information event today at pht.com.au.
You love the games, and at Adelaide Casino, we do too. So from July 15 till August 19, come and experience the fun of our very first Adelaide Games 2016. Meal deals, drink specials, gaming, free live entertainment and music will be happening all over the casino complex day and night, as well as all the sporting action from here and overseas. Adelaide Casino, where the action is. You know the score. Stay in control. Gamble responsibly. Drink responsibly.
This is Peter Godfrey. If you or anyone you know is impacted by problem gambling, call the Gambling Helpline on 1-800-858-858.
And we're taking a look at what's happening across the ditch in New Zealand. Selwyn Manning with us, editor of EveningReport.nz. Now, Selwyn, Olympics, pre-Olympics, excitement building everywhere, including there in New Zealand. Your rowing fours team look like maybe getting in?
It may do, Peter. Now, it's all down to the Russians, oddly enough. And this is tied to the doping scandal that has enveloped the Russian effort at the for sending its teams to the Olympics, of course. And it had to pull out one of its rowing four teams, Russia did, which next on the line to go in was the Kiwi four, the men's copless four, and that's Anthony Allen, Patrick McGuinness, Axel Dickinson, and Mr. Colradi. Now, what's happening there is our guys have been training hard, training flat out on Lake Karapiro, which is down in the Waikato area, about an hour and a quarter, hour and a half south of Auckland City. Now, what they're doing there is they don't know if they're actually going to make it because the Russians haven't made up their mind. Yesterday, they thought that the Russians would make up their mind as to whether what the Russians are kind of pontificating about doing is taking some of their rowers that will be able to show that they've got a history of not taking any drug enhancements and place them into an area where they're not specialists in, and that's the coxless four. If the Russians do that, it blocks out the Kiwis from being able to go. If Russia says, no, they're not specialists in this area, no, we're going to take this one on the chin, we're not going to send them. It's too late in the game. They haven't been training for that. They're not going to be competitive in that particular part of the sport. Then the Kiwis are in. They thought Russia would make that decision yesterday or last night. They haven't, Peter. The latest stuff coming through is that they're still going through the motions of trying to decide. The expectation is that that decision will be made within the next 48 hours. If it is, then our Kiwi guys are heading off there and will give it their best shot. Apparently, their training and their mental attitude is absolutely spot on, and they're at the peak of their form. So
excellent, ready to
we're
go.
obviously all hoping, Peter, that these guys will be being underdogs in that particular sport, being the ones that come in such circumstances. Wouldn't that be fantastic if they actually got a medal?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, as long as it doesn't put us out of the contention, though, of course.
Yeah, I think, on the water, the Kiwis are usually quite good, probably because of the rainfall over here. But except for in the pool, you guys are certainly superior around the place for that kind of thing. But look, just generally, the vibe here in New Zealand is probably the same in Australia, in a sense that the Olympics wake us up to the fact that we've got these potentially world-class athletes and real absolute stars in their field that most people don't know who their names are. You know, and how marvellous that is, you know, how the Olympics suddenly can bring out a person, they become a household name, and you can see them actually at their potential, and that fantastic realisation that we're not just nations of rugby or rugby league and cricket, you know, type of dominance in netball, that there are other sports there. And it's a wake-up call too for Kiwis, you know, that we know of past Olympics with our gold medal hauls with Valerie Adams in the shot put. She's still a world, you know, at the top of her game, the absolute superstar in that particular part of the sport. We've got Lydia Ko, who's looking tipped at the moment in golf to take out the British Women's Open at the moment, immediately prior to going over to Rio. And there's a number of people that are, you know, been looked at in a way. I guess it's the same in Australia with some of your greats at the moment. You know, looking there and thinking, well, these are the ones that have shown, you know, that they've got what it takes from past Olympics, who are going to be the next one. Yeah,
that's going to be good. Hey, there've been sort of in the last week or so, sort of making the news here about the athletes' village in Rio. That it was, you know, pretty shoddy and not ready, and the teams were put up in hotels for a while. Similar things for the Kiwi accommodation.
Yeah, except it looked like ours were able to be repaired by the Kiwis themselves.
Oh, okay.
They got stuck in with their toolboxes, walked in, you know, and started putting the wires together, and someone must have known a few plumbing skills and put some tape on the leaky joint.
And they laughed when they turned up for the flight with all their plumbing gear in their suitcase. Yeah, it might come in handy.
Yeah, this is my sports toolbox. They must have seen going into the place.
Yeah.
The word is from the Olympics committee here in New Zealand, or in the New Zealand version of it, is saying that it's fit to stay in now.
Okay.
I guess some of the things are obviously not ideal. We've heard a lot about your team getting the real raw deal.
Yeah, something pretty dodgy by the sound of some of the stuff that was wrong with them. But
it's shocking. That was big news over here, and comparing against what ours were. We put in a complaint just as Britain did. I think the United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand all put in complaints about the accommodation. But certainly, it looked like you guys got the real raw deal.
I think they've got it rectified now. I think they've moved into the village. So.
Oh, excellent! So they can
get on with it and focus on what they're there to do. Win medals.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. It's always great to see our countries standing up there, Peter. And the cycling is another thing that New Zealanders are looking at with a lot of anticipation, as is on the kayaks. You watch there the kayaks 500 metres. That's something. There's a pocket rocket there that won the gold medal last time, and you know she's going to come through again. Probably that's the expectation.
Won't be long. Won't be long. Selwyn, thank you for joining us this morning. Have a great week, and we'll catch you again next week.
Okay, Peter. Take care.
Bye-bye. Selwyn Manning, editor of EveningReport.nz.
This is Adelaide's 5AA.
Cloudy and 15 today. It's 5:30. I'm Anne Stone. There are concerns cuts to SA Power Network staff could affect electrical supplies during heat waves and storms. The company wants to get rid of 77 maintenance workers by the end of the year and is offering voluntary redundancies. The Electrical Workers Union is concerned about replacing experienced field staff with apprentices, but the network's Paul Roberts says there's no need to worry.
We've got more than 100 apprentices who are going to be coming through their training in the next couple of years. We also have access to contractors in South Australia who assist us with maintenance and with responding to major events.
Reports of sexual abuse against Cardinal George Pell have been made public. Two men have alleged they were groped by Pell at a pool in Ballarat in 1978 when he was a young priest. One of the men has told the ABC staying silent has taken its toll.
I never ever dealt with it. I never spoke of it. Very distant, didn't show emotion. Took the alcohol to not have feelings. I lost everything I had.
Cardinal Pell, who now lives in Rome, has strenuously denied the allegations. Federal Cabinet's meeting today for the first time since the federal election, and it's expected to decide on the terms of a royal commission into the abuse of juveniles in detention in the Northern Territory. The PM has confirmed the inquiry will be restricted to the top end, saying a broader focus isn't necessary. Some economists believe the Reserve Bank will cut interest rates next Tuesday. It's on the back of Australia's lowest annual inflation rate in 17 years. And CommSec economist Craig James says the RBA board will likely slash rates to encourage people to spend more.
There's no risk for the Reserve Bank cutting interest rates and producing an inflationary situation here in Australia. So we expect the Reserve Bank next Tuesday to be cutting interest rates by 0.25%, taking the cash rate to a new historic low of 1.5%.
Nearly 50 people have been killed in a large truck bomb in northeastern Syria near the Turkish border. The BBC's Yoga Telanyai reports Islamic State has claimed responsibility.
A truck bomb went off near a Kurdish security building in Kamishli at around 9 in the morning when people were getting to work. Pictures on Syrian state television showed large-scale destruction and smoke rising into the air. The bomb also caused a gas tank to explode. An eyewitness has told the BBC that there are people trapped under the rubble and there are fears the death toll may rise. Islamic State has said that it was a suicide bomber from the group that triggered the explosion.
Crews battling a deadly bushfire in rugged, drought-stricken terrain north of Los Angeles have made steady progress in containing the blaze. They've extended containment lines around 40% of the fire, which has burnt over 15,000 hectares and destroyed 18 homes since starting last week. To sport, and it's selection day for the Crows in Port Adelaide for round 19. The Power will be without Charlie Dixon.